Hey, welcome back to another video. This week we've got an interesting one for you. We're going to talk about 10 things that I found while looking through the R6 II manual that you may not know. It might be handy for you. So let's hit that intro and go check them out. So number one on 10 things I found was hybrid auto mode. So you're going to set your dial up to a hybrid auto mode. That's the one that's got the A and the little film strip next to it. Basically set this up, and what it's going to do is take 2 to 4 seconds before and after you take your shot. So at a kid's party, your son's there, about to blow out the cake, you get ready, take the shot, boom. It's going to record 2 to 4 seconds before and after, make a little, and then combine those down the track to make a video while you stay in this mode. Now, the things to be aware of, as you can see, it's on a tripod. That's going to be pretty essential because you're doing 2 to 4 seconds before and after the shot. Any movement, any sound, shutter sounds, if you're at night, auto firing beams and stuff are going to show up. So be aware of that. But a good little fun way, I guess, to make a little video out of if you're not used to doing videos or editing or anything like that. So hybrid auto mode, that's number one I found. Hadn't heard of it before, I now know about it, and we'll probably go out and try and do that in one of the videos down the track. Most of these I'm going to try and go and do a video on to give you a good example of them. But I just wanted to talk about them straight off. So there's number one. Number two, panoramic mode. Now I've done this in a couple of videos and I've been super impressed by it. So basically on your scene button up here on your mode dial, get that in there, got it on here now. You can switch your angle, so you can go using your angle button up at the top right, left, right, up and down. So that's quite handy. So if you're doing a vertical pano and you're going to move down, whatever way you're going to move the camera, make sure you set it up beforehand. Now when you do it, obviously on a tripod it's going to be better because you get a nice even. The trick being, there's a couple of little tips to it. You want a nice smooth movement. Don't be jerky and chopping and that, because it can and it will, and it's happened to me. If you're going too fast, too slow, or stop, start, it will stop shooting. Even though your button's still on the trigger, it will stop shooting, so be aware of that. So a nice, get your angle going right, and just a nice smooth, consistent move is what you're after, and you'll get a great image. Even handheld, keep it locked in, keep those elbows in, and just use your hips. It's all in the hips. Use your hips to turn and you'll get a really good photo. It's a fantastic one, and actually I didn't know that I could change the angle of direction, and that's what I found in the manual, so that's another reason why I changed it in there. Panoramic mode, number two. Number three is panning mode. So what this is basically, you've seen those shots where you have cars in focus and then the background's all blurry, such as here on the display. This is a bit of an automatic, and it lets you adjust the background blur after the fact. And if you go into effects, you can adjust the background blur. Now, top tips, there's only certain lenses that it will work with. I've put them in the list below. I'll put a link to the Canon site where they've got them, so they'll be all in the either down below, or I'll put the link over to where you can find the stuff in the manual. You'd better go check that out before you try to use it. Make sure you've got the right lens. Most RF lenses I think are pretty much covered from the list I've seen, so pretty cool. Again, nice and smooth is what you're going to be, much like the panoramic mode. Know what you're doing, so if you get a car or a kangaroo and you know it's sort of running that way, you need to sort of get set up and go nice and smooth. It's all about being smooth and getting that shot. Not jerky, not too fast, not too quick, not too slow. Don't stop, start in the middle. Basically, half press the button to get your focus on the subject. That'll lock it on, and then fully press it will set it, and then just pan away while you got it pressed. So there you go. So just remember, you can go into effects and then change the amount of background blur. So if you've gone a little bit too fast, you might be able to change that up so you get that effect. If you've gone too slow, same sort of thing. You've still got those options there. So that's why it's probably a good one to start learning that process. If you want, it's something that you enjoy doing, then it might be a good way to get into it. And then once you've got a knack of that, then going into manual mode and doing it yourself and setting your own shutter speeds to suit. So pretty cool one, and I thought you might like that one as well. Number 3, handy mode. Number 4, handheld night scene mode. Number 4. Right, so this one is pretty interesting. You see it here, it's again in the scene mode on your mode dial, in the scene section. It takes 4 consecutive photos. Obviously similar to, I guess, like a HDR, but this will auto align those images and combine into one image. Now the things to note with this is, obviously you're going to get a little bit of cropping, because it's going to, to align them, it's going to have to crop at some stage. So be aware of that when you're setting up your composition, to make sure that someone's not on the edge that's going to get half their face cropped out, if that makes sense. Also, moving subjects, you may get some ghosting. So if you've got things moving in there, it may not work. It's one of those things, it's going to be a trial and error thing. Obviously, the darker it is, it's going to be even trickier. If you've got a lot of light, say if you're at a fairground or something, you've got lots of lights around, you may have a better chance at it. You may get something that's a little bit funky out of that ghosting as well. So, but 4 shots, auto combined into one shot into your camera, so you don't have to worry about auto aligning. Again, you don't have to, takes that editing thing out of it, and lets you possibly get a really good handheld night shot without a tripod. So that might be good for family photos when you're out for dinner or at a party or a dinner or something like that, to get that shot where it's low light, but you've still got that option. So definitely worth checking out. Number 4, handheld night shot. Number 5 is the creative mode dial. And it's probably something that's sort of frowned upon against photographers, but I thought there was a couple of things in there worth mentioning. There's 10 items in the creative mode dial selection: black and white, grainy black and white. There's a soft focus, fisheye effect, water painting effect, toy camera effect, miniature effect, HDR art standard, HDR art video vivid, HDR art bold, and HDR art embossed. Now the HDR ones probably ain't going to be anything you're really going to play with. The ones I'm really interested in is the grainy black and white, because if you want to try shooting in black and white, and again, you're not much of an editor, you don't have Lightroom, you're not paying a subscription like most of us photographers, but you want to go and try out what something looks like in black and white, well, you've got that ability to do it in the creative filters. That's super handy. And black and white is great for textures, and I think it's something that every photographer should learn to try and use. I think it's definitely, I started in black and white, and I still love black and white for certain shots, and I think it brings out the textures of things, so it's definitely one to use. The water painting effect is one I want to try with your ICM, so intentional camera movement shots. I've done a few on the channel, and you would have seen a few with plants and stuff like that. If you do a bit of that, I think that's where that water painting effect might actually be beneficial and give it a little bit of something. So definitely try that one with that. The miniature effect, if you're in the city and you're doing some cityscape stuff and you do a lot of stuff around the city, I think the miniature effect, even with cars, might be pretty handy. So I think that might be pretty cool. So we'll go a little bit more into these as well. But there's a few there. Toy cameras, probably not going to do. Fisheye, probably not really. It's not really something that's hugely taken off, but you do have a few filters in there, and we're going to talk a little bit more about them now. But I just wanted to go over the whole 10 because there's definitely some options in there. Don't just go past them. It just looks like a filter, and it's like, oh yeah, that's just amateur stuff. I think some of these things might be quite handy if you get to use them and learn how to use them. So something you might not have known. Number 6, the depth of field preview button. Now, I'd sort of heard it talked about a couple of times. I haven't heard a lot about it. So basically, you're out taking a shot, you've got a wide angle lens on, I've got the 15 to 35, and you might be worried about, okay, can I get this scene in focus? You don't know if you're going to be able to get that scene in focus. There's all sorts of calculations. You can take 4 shots to focus stack it. We've talked about focus bracketing with the Canon R6. You can do that, so that's something you can do. But what this depth of field button is, by holding down this button, it'll stop down the lens to the current aperture that you're using. So you're using an f8, which is a good one for the 15 to 35 lens. That's pretty sharp. By holding down that button, it'll give you a preview in your eyepiece and on your screen, and tell you what's in focus. So it'll highlight the areas that are in focus, so you can see straight away if you need to focus bracket that shot. So straight away, just that simple button down here that's hidden away, you don't even know what it is. It sort of looks, when you first look at it, like a lens release button. Well, it's not. That's your depth of field button. I'd heard about it. I didn't really know about it. I didn't go looking for it, but just by reading the manual, I found it, I read about it, I went, that's going to be super handy. So depth of field button just in here. So when you grip, so it's easy just to press it with your finger. So simple, something you've probably overlooked a dozen times. Depth of field button, definitely use it because it will make your life easier when you are going to edit, or if you need to go up or down with your aperture to get the whole shot in focus, or what you want in focus, I guess. So depth of field button, number 6. Super handy though. Number 7, bulb timer. Now, out of all of the 10, this is my favorite because this is probably the one I actually, when I seen it, went, oh my goodness, how good is that? You get a 15 stop filter on. You want to get that nice big long exposure. As you know, I love a good long exposure shot. Sometimes 10 stops fantastic, but you get to a longer exposure with that 15 stop on, or even more. You might be a 20-minute shot. So you've got a choice. You're not going to hold the finger on your button. You're going to get shake. It's going to ruin the photo. With Canon, you can use the app. Anyone that's used that app that I know of doesn't like it. It's a terrible app. It's really painful to connect. It has got a little bit better with the M2, I will say that, but it's still a pain in the butt. You can't use your phone for anything else. If you go out of it to answer a phone call or a message, you're sitting around for 20 minutes and you can't play with your phone, so then you got nothing to do. So I really hate using it. I do have the Nissi one that'll plug in and do it through Bluetooth, so that'll automatically set it up. Again, something you've got to remember to take in your bag, plug it in, keep the batteries charged on it. It's just a little bit extra work. Well, I found in here the bulb timer. So while I'm in bulb mode, come into here in number 7, bulb timer, set, enable, and then info to set the time. You can set hours, minutes, seconds, however long you want. Set it up with here. 1 second, okay, come in, go back and take your shot, bang, it's an automatic timer, you don't have to worry about it. So now I can go into my Nissi app, work out, get my exposure, then add on the filter so I can get my exact time, plug that time into the bulb timer here, bang, walk away from the camera. It does it all for me. I don't have to go near it. I know it's going to stop exactly when it's supposed to, and I've got free use to use my phone to do other photos, do videos, vlogging, whatever else I want to do while the camera is doing the work. Bulb timer is my number 1 tip that I found while reading the manual, and please hope you go and check it out because I know it'll save you a lot of stress and a lot of extra tools and intervalometers and all those things. I'm not sure what other model cameras it's on, but on the R6 M2 it's definitely there. It's possibly on, say, an R5 or the R3. I'd say it's on there, maybe R7s and R10s. The newer cameras, I'm pretty sure they'll all have it as well. Go check it out, the bulb timer, number 7, number 1 tip. Probably should add a number 1, but it's at number 7. But anyway, go check it out. Number 8, the Digi teleconverter. Now, we all have heard about Digi or teleconverters that you put on the back of your lenses to increase the magnification. Well, something I didn't know you could do was you've got a digital one inbuilt in the R6 M2. Now, the one caveat I did find with this one, and it doesn't say it in the actual manual, is the fact that you can only shoot in JPEG. So be aware that you can't shoot RAW, compressed RAW. You have to turn them off. You can only you can go into the large file format JPEG, but that's all you can do. But you've got a choice of 2 times and 4 times. So if you're a bird lifer or shooting animals out in the bush with a big long telephoto lens, you just need that little extra reach, that may be an option for you. So I thought that might be quite handy, something I didn't know you could do. But again, one of those 10 things that might be super handy for you that you might not have known about. The Digi teleconverter, number 8. Okay, number 9 is the HDR shooting mode. So if you go into your camera selection and number 2, you've got this HDR shooting, HDR PQ. So that's potential quantitative. Basically that's what the PQ means, a fancy name. But basically what it does, it adjusts the gamma curve to give you full better dynamic range capabilities. Now in this mode you can only shoot in RAW or HEF, I believe. Yeah, HEF or RAW files. So you can't do JPEGs in that one. On the screen, on your back screen, once you've taken the shot, it will actually show you how it will appear on a HDR television's monitor, blah blah blah. So if you're into shooting HDR or you want to try that HDR, that might be a good one for you because it does the HEF files and your RAW. They're probably really good handy shots. You still got a fair bit of ability to edit them. If you're doing something in HDR for a commercial or whatever, that might be quite handy for you. So go check out that one out. That's the HDR shooting PQ mode. Hey, radio, number 10 on this fantastic little list of things you didn't know about the R6 M2, but if you had read the manual, you would know, like I did when I found them. Radio, this is the HDR mode shoot one. So you've got 2 things in this. You've got moving subject and dynamic range. Obviously moving subject, if you've got something in there that's moving, that's pretty self-explanatory, I hope. And dynamic range is more of a landscape. So you're taking a big landscape, you've got really bright skies and dark shadows, and you're going to try and get the most of everything. Now caveats with this shooting mode, much like the last one, which was the HDR PQ, it gives you works on the gamma curve, that one. Well, this is a little bit different. I guess it's the more basic version. So this one will only give you JPEG and RAW and HEF, depending on which one you use. It will be DR mode, will be dynamic range mode, will be saved as RAW and JPEG, and the moving ones will be RAW and HEF. So just remember that. All these notes, I'll put a link to the manual so you can go and check it out, the manual yourself as well, to read this, in case I've led you astray. But it gives you a couple of options. So obviously you do in landscape get a lot of big dynamic range things. So if you're looking to try something new, and again you want to understand it a bit more, don't be afraid to go in, try these out. Obviously on a tripod, if you're using the dynamic range one, it's going to give you a better option because it's going to be smoother. You can't use the flash in this mode, so if you're going to use a flash, don't use that. And if you're indoors with LED lighting, suggest you use the anti-flicker mode. So otherwise, because of whatever the system is, it's going to get a lot of that issues with the LED lights. So just be aware of that. So you might want to put that anti-flicker on as well. Auto image align is turned off when you're using the tripod mode. So the dynamic range tripod mode. So when you are using it, and if you're moving subject, it'll auto align, so you're going to get a little bit of crop. So remember that as well. If you're in the dynamic range, it shouldn't crop on you, but you're going to need to be pretty still. So probably suggested to use a tripod on that mode. So there you have it. 10 things you may not know about the R6 M2 that I found in the manual when I went looking. Us men don't like reading manuals, but yeah, well, I found them and they come in super handy. That bulb timer is going to be super beneficial for me. Can't wait to use that. Some of those dynamic, those special creative filter modes, black and white, the night scene mode, some of those, even those HDR ones are pretty darn handy. Panning mode, I would definitely want to try. The panoramic, I definitely recommend you go and try that out. There's a little something there for everyone. Just shows you that if you do read the manual, occasionally it's quite handy and it can give you a little bonus The depth of field button on the front, another absolute must that I just hadn't even thought of or didn't even worry about looking at what it was. So yeah, definitely very cool. Hope you enjoyed this. I will put a link to the Canon website where you can go and get the R6 M2 manual, so you can download it yourself and read it in your own leisure. Other than that, I'll put the script up down below so you can read it. I've also got in that script all the lenses available that will suit the panning mode. There's also ones that you'll need for the pano mode as well, but I think a lot of them will cross over. Most of them are going to be RF lenses, but just some of them you can and can't do. Like the focus bracketing is a specialist thing and only suits certain lenses. Definitely, I just wanted to try and get you as much information. But the link to the manual will be down below. Go check that out. If you like this, hit like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for stopping by. Go enjoy your manual, whatever you're shooting with, whether it's Nikon, Sony, Fuji, whatever. I think it's time us blokes start reading the manuals. We do it for IKEA flat packs because they will kill you. So I think with our cameras, maybe we need to read them a little bit more. Rightio, see you in the next video. Stay safe. Peace.